On behalf of the Tri-County Women Veterans, we are proud to sponsor Central Florida Salute. Salute 2.
Welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I'm your host, Bob Peters, once again at the Eagles Area 4273 in beautiful Okahumpka. And I have the pleasure of having Lieutenant Colonel Heath Davenport.
Retired.
Retired.
Or retarded, whatever.
Yeah. Welcome to Salute.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit about your experiences, but first, Army, well, how did you wind up going in the Army? You just wanted to be in the Army or what?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
I was in college and I needed an elective. And a friend was in Air Force ROTC and my brother was in the Air Force in Germany, so I thought, easy A. So
Wait a minute. Your brothers were Air Force?
He was Air Force.
And you went in the Army?
Well, we're getting there.
Okay.
So I took the Air Force ROTC and it was nice. I enjoyed it. So next semester I needed one more. So I thought, okay, I'll go down the hall and try Army ROTC. Just another, easy A,
Keep your options open.
So the first day they made me a cadet sergeant. I didn't know what that was, but I was one. And the first weekend I was rappelling off the science building. And I said, okay, this is for me. I just kept taking classes until they said, oh, you got to sign a contract. And I thought, oh, okay. And I signed the contract and kept going.
So you're from where originally? I should
Dallas. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was going to Texas Tech University at the time.
Okay.
But I had no intention of going military at all. I was going to be a high school math teacher was my plan.
So you wound up going into the Army, and where did you go to begin with?
Well, I got very lucky. My first duty assignment I got to pick, and it was Germany, the same station that was my brother was at. And he'd already left, but I knew about it. So, and it's a big military intelligence one, and I was, military intelligence. So I got to go to Germany, which was great because Dad said for graduation, you can either have so much money towards a car or a trip to Europe. I said, well, the Army's giving me Europe, so how about a car, Dad? So he started the payments, and then I picked him up. So I went to Augsburg, Germany. West Germany back then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so how many years did you do?
25.
25.
Yep. Supposed to get out after 24, but then 9/11 happened while I was up at the Pentagon. So the general asked me to pull my paperwork and stay another year, help plan the invasion of Iraq. And
Did
then
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I got out.
Wow. Help plan the invasion. That's.
Yeah, we had to get all the military intelligence equipment to the right units. So I was in charge of looking and saying, okay, there's a unit in Puerto Rico that's got this, and it needs to go to this unit, and get it to where they were all set to go in with the best equipment we could get.
It's amazing. So to take me through, you went to basic, where did you go?
Officer basic at Fort Huachuca. We called it Fort We Gotcha.
We got you. Where is that?
It is on the very southern border of Arizona. I mean, they have aerostat balloons up looking for drug smugglers because it's close to the border.
Yeah.
It's south of Tucson.
Nowadays, they just dig tunnels and go under everything.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So, you went to school and you got an intelligence. Tell me more about what you did when you were in, as far as intelligence and all that goes. I mean, you said Iraq. That's.
Yeah, well, I had about half of my tours were strategic level. So like the one in Germany and everything, our motto was, when Moscow talks, we listen. Our unofficial one was, in God we trust, all others we monitor. So you can kind of get an idea of what we were doing in West Germany. And then half of my assignments were tactical. I was with the 101st Airborne. I did 2 tours with the 25th Division, and I did 1 tour with the 32nd Guards Motorized Rifle Regiment, which was a Soviet-style unit that acts as a sparring for sparring against the U.S. In the National Training Center. So you dress up like a Soviet, use Soviet-style equipment. So got to be in that unit as well. So I had a good mix of strategic and tactical. So it's amazing what they let you do.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you're flooring me with all this. You know, you're dressed up like a Soviet soldier. And
Yeah, if you go to Mission Barbecue and look up on the walls, my picture is me in my Soviet uniform. I still have it. It's just the fatigues that we wore to the field. We dressed up like Soviets, carried an AK-47. So we had some Soviet equipment, and other is U.S. equipment that's visually modified to look like Soviet equipment. And then we shoot lasers at each other and do war games out in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So I couldn't believe they paid me to have that much fun.
go play war games.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Wow. Wow. So how many different countries were you in?
Not that many on official business, because I was in Germany and I was in Korea. And I did do 2 tours in Hawaii, and some people thought that was a different country. I kept telling them, guys, it's part of the U.S., come on.
Yeah, I know.
But that afforded me the, ability to travel all over. Now, when I was in Germany, I could go all over Western Europe. I obviously couldn't go into Eastern Europe. And even since then, I haven't gone too much into Eastern Europe. Right now, I'm kind of sad that I'll probably never get to Moscow, because if I went, they'd take one look at my history, and I'd be in the cell next to Brittany Griner, as a pawn. And they would assume I was a spy or something, but...
Yeah, they have a lot of problems over there right now.
Yeah, so I won't, I did get to St. Petersburg once, but I got to travel a lot all through Europe, and then when I was in Hawaii, I got to travel all through the Pacific, and then in Korea, it was real easy to travel from there, so I got to do a lot of traveling on my own.
Well, I hear you're a speaker for Tri-County Women Veterans.
Yeah, they've asked me to speak a couple of times. We started working with, there's one of the groups that has, people in not just hospice, but assisted living and that sort of stuff. And we would go there on holidays because those people can't get out. So we would go and, have them come out and do a little ceremony and talk about, whether it's Memorial Day or 4th of July, whatever, let them speak, the veterans and all. So Sue saw me, speaking there, and then asked me to speak at the Veterans Memorial Park on Memorial Day, and that went over well. So ever since then, it's like, hey, she can say 2 words in a row without tripping. Let's do that.
Well, I called Sue up. I said, hey, I'm looking for... I got just the woman for you.
Well, she volunteered me for that Fox and Friends, too, when we went on the all-women's honor flight.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
Oh, the all-women's honor flight was absolutely amazing, the Mission 53. And I know, I've actually heard some people, say, well, it's not fair because you guys got to have your own. But we didn't interfere with the regular honor flights. All the regular honor flights continued to go. We did a lot of fundraising and put together money to where we could have an extra one. So we went for 2 days.
Yeah, you ladies know how to party.
Oh, I tell you, because we all know each other. Normal honor flight, the guys don't necessarily know each other, so they're kind of reserved. But in the women, I mean, it was like, hey, everybody knew everybody, and so we had a good time.
I went on an honor flight many, many years ago, and you're right. I can't tell you one name that I was out with,
It's strangers, and yes, you have that bond because you were military, and you can talk, hey, what'd you do? But there's not that friendship that we had amongst the women because we're all part of Tri-County Women Veterans.
Yeah, well, you see each other
so
all
we
the
knew
time.
each other, and, so it was a bunch of friends getting together, and they even had, the whole crew that went, the medical, everybody was females. The only guy was the videographer, Chris. He was the only guy. Everybody else it was all females.
And if you go to Central Florida Salute YouTube, you can see that.
Yes.
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 You haven't seen it yet. But Sue and Betsy, I interviewed them at the radio station
Yeah.
prior to the flight, and then we got footage, And they came right here, and we finished up doing the show here. And
That's what was funny. The night before we went, they got a call that Fox down in Orlando wanted to talk to somebody. And they said, well, there's nobody to talk to. Everybody's taking a nap because it's going to be a long day. And then somebody said, wait a second, Heath's going to some barbecue party. She's up. So they got in touch with me and came to the barbecue party and set up and did it right there. Everybody else was taking a nap. And it was a long day, but man, it was great.
yeah, well, like I said, I went many, many years ago, and it was nothing like that. But and I also did a show with a gentleman who was a coastie, Dave
Yeah.
Taylor, I think's his last name. He's on my YouTube show. And Dave was one of the greeters for the flightless honor
Oh, yeah,
flight.
yeah.
Yeah, him and
Those
Gary
are really
Cato
good.
and
For
all
those
that.
who can't travel, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Those flightless.
And Dave, well, Dave talked about his career in the Coast Guard, and we also showed a lot of pictures that I had taken while I was there,
Yeah.
recording it, and that was quite the experience. One of the gentlemen who's been on my show many years ago was with the Battle of the Bulge. He was,
Oh, yeah,
He wanted to go about 3 or 4 years ago because of COVID. He couldn't go, and I found out about the ageless honor flight when it was going, and I called him up, and they accommodated him. And Jean-Pierre Lamont Belafonte, I think's his name.
Easy for you to say.
Quite the man. He was like in the 94, 97 or something. I don't
Yeah.
remember. But he loved it. And
But talking to people actually in battles, because that reminds me one time we were doing an exercise from the 25th Division in Hawaii. We'd go over to Korea for team spirit exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in charge of also doing the high-level OPD, the Officer Professional Development, for all the colonels and above. So I thought, well, we're in Korea. Let's go to a battlefield. And I know this one lieutenant colonel's got a PhD in history. We'll have him tell us about this battle. So he was all for it. So we get out there, and he's doing it, and I look over at the division photographer, and he's like looking like he's not feeling well. So I go up and said, are you okay? He says, yeah, it's just kind of personal for me. And I'm like, what do you mean? He was in that battle. The battle
really?
at Chip-Yong-Ni. I was like, oh my goodness, you come up here and talk. And he did. And to his credit, the lieutenant colonel gave way and said, I'd love to hear somebody who's actually in the battle. Everything I know is out of a book.
yeah.
But
yeah.
some of those guys you go on the honor flights with, they were in some
Well, you're on
really
a show
serious
right
battles.
now with a guy who's done over 500 shows. I have interviewed everybody from the 1936 Olympics.
Yeah.
That was there at the bridge of the River Kwai.
See?
Several of my uncles were World War II, D-Day.
Would they talk about it, though? It's hard to get some of them to talk about it.
It is, but then it really isn't sometimes. I mean, I've had guys who have PTSD come on my show,
Yeah.
and they've opened up with me, and then we've talked. Because
Yeah.
we're comfortable
You have that
here.
connection.
Yeah.
Sometimes they won't tell their family, but they'll tell a
I can tell you a
fellow vet.
story. I got a friend of mine up in Connecticut. I'm not going to say his name.
I'm proud that you have a friend, but go ahead.
That's one.
Yeah, that's good.
That's one more than you.
There you go.
But anyway, he was in Saddam Hussein's palace,
Oh, okay.
and his picture was on the front page of the Daily News up there.
Oh, yeah.
Getting a kiss on the cheek by a young boy.
Oh, yeah.
The day of the
Yeah.
invasion.
Oh, yeah.
And he told me, he says, what a roller coaster of emotions. He says, I blew away 6 Iraqis just before
Yeah.
he said, but it's what he had to do.
Yeah.
And he opened up to me and told me about a lot what went on. And then his stepfather came over and said, what did he tell you? I says, what do you mean, what did he tell me? He says, well, he won't tell me. He says, when he's
Yeah.
ready, he'll tell you. But if you're not
But
ready, they're not going to tell
And
you.
he may never be ready
He
to
may
somebody who he doesn't think will understand and get it from his viewpoint, a fellow vet.
You're right. And I've been blessed to have talked to many Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Medal of Honor
Ghosties?
winners, all.
Any Space Force yet?
No, I don't know. any
Okay,
of
there
those
you go.
folks.
There's
you
your
know
challenge.
any of them?
No. I heard they've got a new song, though. I heard it the other day. Some Air Force and Coasties got together and wrote a song for the Space Force. It's out there.
Yeah, I don't exactly understand the Space Force, but hey,
It's a new world.
yeah, right. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, but you went up the ranks rather fast, huh?
No, pretty much on schedule and everything.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I had to get out, because there is an up or out, and I didn't get selected for colonel, so I had to get out at 27. I was like, well, I'm not going to wait around for that, because I've
You mean
already
full
had.
bird? You were a light bird.
I was a light bird, but I'd already had the best job you can have as a lieutenant colonel in military intelligence, so I knew that I was just going to end up getting desk jobs after that. So I thought, might as well get out if I'm not going to make colonel.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed all those years. That was a lot of fun.
Got to see a lot of the world, huh?
Yeah.
That's the best part about it.
Yeah. Travel. It was frustrating to see some of the troops that would, be in Germany, total barracks rats. They never, left the caserne, the post. And it's like, wow, I just can't imagine being in Germany and sitting there.
Not leaving
getting
the
out.
post?
Yeah. I mean, I was out every weekend doing something.
Were you
But-
supposed to be?
Yes, I was allowed to be.
Oh, see, when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in Thailand with the B-52s.
Beautiful Thai. Yeah.
And you could get, after a year or so, you can get a 3-day pass to go to Bangkok.
Oh, yeah.
Not Bob. Bob was all over. I had a couple of friends of mine who carry weapons, and we went up
Yeah.
North Country where the communists were and everything, visited schools.
Yeah, along the borders, because I've been to Thailand before, and we were
Visit-
staying in one place. They said, if you go out for a run, go east, don't go west. You're really close to that border.
Me and another airman, we visited a school that had never seen
Big white people.
big white
Or
people. And
even
then my
black people.
friend was African American, so they'd
Yeah.
never seen an African American before either.
We saw that in Korea when we go over for those team spirits. We just get in the Jeep and, go out. So we're going in villages that they've never seen,
Yeah.
this. And then here I am in full battle rattle, and I got my face paint on, and I got a helmet on and everything. Those kids are just like, oh my goodness.
I bet.
And you give them some candy, and some of them, they've never had chocolate before. The look on their face first time they had chocolate.
Yeah.
But even going to the bathhouses, you walk in and all the women are just staring at you because you're twice their size and you're dressed funny and you got paint on your face. They're like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, but you got some looks. I'm working with Maria Boganoff and
Yeah,
Catherine
Marie.
Wilgus for Ashley's House. We
Yes, yeah.
recorded all of that. We recorded Ashley's mom and
Yeah.
groundbreaking and everything. We've been following Ashley's House all the way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're going to continue following it until we get that
Yeah.
key turned.
Yeah,
But
it'll take a
because
while.
Women veterans are just now starting to get the recognition I think they should have gotten a long, long time ago.
Well, especially some of the older ones that they were in were just, they were kind of outcasts. It's like, what do we do with a female? And even in my time, because they were having women cadets, but it was still new. So like me asking to go to airborne school, they were like, well, how do we figure that out? We don't have a PT test. You're competing against the guys. So they made me take the guys' PT test. They didn't know. And then I was cadet commander. I was in the Army Times as the first ever female cadet commander in ROTC. I said, that can't be, because there were women a year ahead of me. There's got to be some small university somewhere. They just
Yeah.
didn't know about it. But then years later, they had the first female cadet at West Point, and they brought my name up again, because it's been so many years since the first female was a cadet command. So it's just everywhere you go, it's like, well, can a female do that? It's like, well, why not?
Yeah, you follow the history of women in the military, going back to the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, dressing up as men.
Yeah, sometimes
And
they did have to.
But no, they didn't know any better until they got wounded, and they went, "Oh my goodness, this is not a guy." But they've always been there. The guy who we are under the Florida Arts and Media,
Yeah.
which is a not-for-profit, and Bill Suki did the documentary on WASP, the Women
Oh,
Air
yeah.
Force Service Pilots. Now they were all volunteers. They were they never got their dues until many years
Took them
later.
many years to,
You know, and
and a
that-
lot of them by then had even passed away. They never got it in their lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting one of them, one of those ladies, but
But even now, there's, ladies like going to ranger school, and so there's still women, hitting those glass ceilings. And every generation, you just take out a couple more glass ceilings and you keep going.
2019 is when they finally said women can go into combat, be a part of combat.
But women have been in combat.
Well,
for-
they finally, now they're flying
whole
the jets,
time.
they're driving
Oh,
the
yeah.
tanks, they're doing everything.
And especially look at the type of wars that we had in Afghanistan and Iraq. There's no clear line.
I know.
We were all in it because you don't know where the next mortar's coming or the next Scud or whatever. So they just finally got around to it. But I definitely, like my first duty assignment, there were a lot of women there, so it wasn't a big deal. But then I show up for my second duty assignment out there in the Mojave Desert, and I give them my orders, and they just kind of look at me funny. I'm like, what's wrong? And they said, you're going to a unit that doesn't allow female officers. I'm like, but I've got orders there. Where else am I supposed to go? So I said, where's the colonel in charge of that unit? So they sent me over to the officers club, and I go in there, and here's this big bull of a guy, and I'm sitting here practically in his face because my eyes haven't adjusted to the sun. And I explained to him, sir, I'm here, I'm supposed to be part of your unit. He just looks at me and he says, you play basketball? I'm like, what kind of question is that? And I said, well, yes, sir, I've been known to shoot hoops. And he goes, meet me 2 o'clock over at the gym. And he walks off. So I had to go in town, get my gym stuff, and show up. And he had a pickup game, and I was on the opposite team. And I purposely ran into him really hard a couple of times, set some hard picks to show him. And then we finished playing, and we're sitting there, and he just kind of looks down the bench at me and goes, okay, you can be in the unit. I was like, oh my goodness, is that the job interview? And then
That's a
about
different interview.
And then 2 months later, the other military intelligence officer showed up, another female. Now, Debbie was about 5 feet tall with a high-pitched voice. And to this day, I wonder what would have happened if she'd showed up first. I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
Maybe she played basketball and could dribble. I don't know. But it's just he wasn't used to it. He didn't want any female officers because he'd never had one. He was infantry. He, didn't know. But hit him a few times on the basketball court, and okay, you proved yourself.
I worked for the power company. I was a lineman. I worked my way up to chief, and then I was the head of the union.
Probably
But,
not too many women in that line of work either.
No, there isn't, but there are a few. And you know what? I've always said I don't have a problem with a woman being in the line gang with me. If she can get me off that pole if I get
Yeah,
hurt,
yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
As long as they can do the job. And that's what, to him, he didn't think a female could do the job. But I showed him on the basketball court, of all places, that I'm not some little shrinking violet. I can take care of myself. And then he was fine. And he and I ended up getting along great. And years later, I was at,
Well, I'll play cribbage with you, but I ain't playing basketball with you.
I still set hard picks. We play every Sunday, show up. We may make you put on a bra because
No.
it's women's basketball.
No. My basketball days are over.
Mine probably should be, but I'm still out there
I was
having
never any
fun.
good at it anyway. I was more of a football guy.
Ah.
I've been told by my videographicer over there, just sitting over there, about something about the ship.
Yeah.
What was that? What was it about?
There was only one ship that I know of, but when I was with the 101st, there was going to be a naval exercise, and they needed a few Army folks. So the 82nd was going to send a few, and they got pulled off, I think, for Grenada. So they called up the 101st and said, hey, we need 3 Army folks. One of them's got to be military intelligence, 1 logistics, and I forget what the other. So I volunteered and said, hey, that sounds like fun. I'll go. So I went out on the USS Mount Whitney for this exercise. And I showed up, and they're like, oh, we thought we were getting like a junior officer. We don't know what to do with you. And then they said, do you know Soviet ground tactics? And I said, it's all I did at Fort Irwin. They said, okay, could you script the ground war? Because we don't know how to do that. So I did that, and the ground portion was over. So they said, okay, we need to get you back home, but we're too far out to sea. We can't helicopter you in. So I said, well, I do need to get home. They said, okay, we're going to helicopter you over to an aircraft carrier. You'll spend the day there, and then we'll shoot you off on, they call it a COD, where it's their delivery, vehicle and everything. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like fun. I'm an Army person. I'll do anything. And I'm still getting strange looks, walking around the ship because it's, Army uniform.
Yeah.
So I fly over, and we land on this aircraft carrier, and I was used to helicopters. I mean, the 101st, it's, a lot of helicopter stuff.
Yeah, right.
But this one, the helicopter just comes and hovers and waits for the ship to come up and smack it, and then it cuts its engines and you go down with it. Nobody warned me about that. So I was like, whoa, what's going on? And the EOD guys on board saw me, and they gave me one of their vests, I think it was red, and they took me all over the ship, showing me all over this aircraft carrier. It was an amazing day. I got to stand on the deck while they were, shooting them off. I wasn't allowed to be on there when they were landing. Just an amazing day. And then I said, okay, well, if you're going to shoot me off this deck, I probably ought to go to the bathroom first. So I said, where's the, ladies' latrine? And they looked at me and they said, you realize you're the only woman on board, right? I said, what? I said, there are no women on aircraft carriers. I'm like, I thought they were staring at me because I was Army. And they said, no, you're the only woman on board. I said, well, where do I go to the bathroom? They said, there's a VIP head. You got to go, up and over and down. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get so lost. So I go and try to find this VIP head up in the bridge, and suddenly there's man overboard. And they start yelling, man overboard, man overboard. And everybody has to muster to their station. And the last unit to check in has to do KP, peeled potatoes, I guess, in the mess hall.
Oh.
So they're flying by, and I'm just, up against the bulkhead, trying to get out of their way. And then all of a sudden, naked guys started flying by. They were in the showers. They came around the corner, and I'm like, whoa. And then they got their towels, and they kept running. I was like, oh. And then it quieted down, and I thought, oh, man, they probably thought I fell overboard. So I had to find my way back and check in and everything. And then I never did make it to the bathroom, but fortunately the shooting off experience was absolutely amazing. But fortunately there were no accidents.
Yeah. I went on the World War II aircraft carrier, the Yorktown in St. Charles.
I was on the Teddy Roosevelt.
But that's World War II, and now the ones now are so huge.
And now they have lots of women on board,
Oh,
and they're
that's
so
true.
modernized and everything.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that their command and control ship, the Mount Whitney, had lots of women, but aircraft carriers didn't. Submarines, I think, were probably about the last. But it's still funny to talk to a Navy person, and a lot of them, especially the women, they never got to go out on a Navy ship. They had the type of job that they were in port.
Yeah.
So as an Army person, I got to spend more time on Navy ships than a lot of the Navy women got to.
Yeah.
And others got to spend a lot of time on Navy ships. Because now they're all integrated.
Yeah. Well, like I say, things have changed nowadays,
Yep.
And it's right, I mean, if a woman can do the job,
Yeah.
so be it, I mean, we're all in this together, one way or another.
Now, look at the problems we had, coming up even through World War I and World War II with segregated units. Until they trusted and realized that there's no reason we can't have, black and white together. It was then later, it was the women.
I've done several shows with that, and I've done one with a gentleman who was Japanese.
Oh,
And he was born in this country, but he lived within 200 miles of the coast, after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And his parents and his
Had to go to
brother
camp.
and him, they all got thrown in internment camps.
yeah.
And they only got out of there because he and his brother volunteered for, I think it's the Triple Nickels they call it. They fought only Germans. They did not fight the Japanese.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the guy told me, he says, we had a lot of casualties.
Yeah.
A lot of my guys were shot 2 or 3 times. I was lucky I only got shot once because we couldn't get a lot of, replacements.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they had to be all Asian.
Yeah.
And like we had to have all black units,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not anymore. And that's great because,
Yeah.
we're all in, like I say, we're all in this together,
But we had to go through that proving to show people that, see, there's no problem with integrating. whether it's black, Japanese, women, there's no problem. Just
Yeah, yeah, so,
let them do the mission.
that's right. So, what other stories you got there? Or should I ask my camera lady over there?
Well, we talked a little bit about ROTC. Germany, nothing really exciting happened, other than there was a new major that came in, female, so she wanted all the women to get together and have lunch once a week. And I got with the other lieutenants and said, guys, this isn't a good idea, because we're totally accepted here. If we start having our own little luncheons, it's going to be a we-they thing.
Yeah, right.
So we boycotted her luncheons. And then years later, she was a 3-star general, and I had to go, I was the G2 of the 25th Infantry Division. When I came out of that job, I had an office call with her to tell her, how things are going in the field. And the whole time I'm sitting out there going, boy, I hope she doesn't remember.
Yeah.
She never said a thing.
That's good.
I think I was safe there. But other than that, Germany was pretty straightforward. And Fort Irwin, boy, that was just, magical times and everything. By the time I got to the 101st, there was really no stigma with being a female. There was some when I went to the 25th Division, because the second time I was with the 25th, I was the G2, the Division G2, so the senior military.
What do you mean G2? Tell our people what G2 means.
That is the senior military intelligence. Your G1 is your senior personnel, G2 is intel, 3 is ops. So you're on the general staff and you are the senior military intelligence person. Well, everybody in the division was okay with that, but we're working with the Thais and the Filipinos, and they don't necessarily have women in their military. So we would go over there and they would just look at our general like, are you serious? You got a female G2? How can you have it's an infantry division. How can you have a female G2? And the general's like, it's not a problem in the U.S. Army.
Yeah, well, our country we're a melting pot. We got all kinds of,
Yeah, we try to be. We don't always
But you go
melt
to some
real
of these
well.
countries, like even when I was in Thailand,
Yeah.
you go down the street, the women walk behind the men,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the hardest part for me was the men over there. If you're a good friend
Yeah.
and you go to cross the street, they hold hands.
Yeah. It's culturally fine for
That's
two guys to
culturally
hold
fine.
hands.
Yeah, it's culturally
But
fine.
Americans look at it and go, "What are you, gay?"
Oh, yeah,
And-
that was the first thing. This guy was a dear friend of mine, and he wanted to show me around Bangkok. And the next thing I know, he's grabbing my hand, and I'm going, yeah, well, in Rome, you got to do as the Romans do, right?
Yeah. And in the U.S., we're getting more accepting of those that are gay. It's like, it should be okay.
Yeah.
But I got to go over to Thailand for Cobra Gold exercises, and that was always really fun. And after the last exercise, the Thais are really big into golf, so they wanted to host us playing golf, in a beautiful golf course, So the general knows I play golf, so he's like, oh, you're my partner, come here. So we're out there playing golf, and it's great because you have your own caddy, but you also have a golf cart. The caddy rides on back. And my caddy, if she tells me that putt's going that way, man, she knows this course, so I'm going that way. But a lot of the guys are like, no, I don't think it's going to break that much, so they were missing. So I was having a really good round, and our other general wasn't feeling well. He had new clubs. And so he said, I'm not going to play. And I was just using some, club ones.
Whatever's around.
Yeah, whatever. And so he said, here, Heath, you hit it. So I want to see somebody who actually plays golf, see if it's the club or if it's me. Oh, man, those were sweet clubs. That ball was just exploding off. So
Then he realized it was him, huh?
Yeah. So I had a really good round. And at the end, the interpreter came up to me and said, ma'am, you see that group over there? And I said, yeah, I've been wondering what's going on. It's all the caddies. They seem to be in a bit of an uproar. You told me not to give any money to my caddy. It would be an affront to the Thai general. He goes, yeah, don't give her any tip. But what are you going to do with that scorecard? I said, I was going to take it home as a souvenir. I played really well today. He goes, would you mind giving it to your caddy? So if she wants it, and she goes, you were the low score of the day. You beat all the Thai generals. She wants that card. She's going to be the talk of the, the clubhouse. That's what the uproar's over. So I went over and gave it to her, and you would have thought I'd given her $1 million.
Yeah.
But The Thais were very nice, very hospitable,
the
but you had to
land-
be careful because, man, they give you lunch, it's going to be hot. Yeah, I mean, it is spicy.
Well, it depends.
Woo.
I mean, I had a good friend who had a restaurant. I used to eat a lot of Thai food. I still love Thai food, but one
must
day,
like the hot.
one day, no, I don't. No, mine's not hot. So I come back. I came back from. I went TDY there. Went back to the States. Came back again. Now I'm back again, and a friend of mine is still there. We meet up,
Yeah.
and we go to this restaurant. And I'm kind of a picky eater. You know,
Okay.
and.
You'll only eat MREs?
Well, no, you didn't have to eat those. But anyway, he says, "Oh, you got to try this soup. This soup is great." And he's munching away. I'm like, you know, I'm one of these guys. If it's not wrapped in cellophane marked U.S. Grade A, you know, I'm not. So I finally said to the waitress, I says, "What is it? Mangda soup." I says, "Yeah, but what is Mangda soup? You know, rice bug."
Oh, yeah.
And you said the same. I said, I think I'll skip that.
Yeah, I suddenly had second thoughts.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your career and what, you know,
It's my honor.
it's good to see us have a show with, you know, a lady veteran so that people can see that, yeah, you ladies did a lot.
We got a lot of ladies here in this area that did a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of them.
Yeah, your Tri-County Women Veterans is a good group. And, because they've sponsored, the fact they're going to sponsor this show, we're going to put that one on. They've given us a donation.
They're doing a lot, and they're growing. I think it's
Yeah,
over
'cause we
250 members now.
we are a
It's amazing.
not-for-profit.
As they are, yeah.
Yeah, and we count on donations to keep us going. So they have contributed to us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So they're going to be in the front of this
Appreciate
show.
what you're doing. Keep doing it.
Yeah,
Keep going.
13 years.
Yeah, well, you'll get it right.
Yeah, I get it right. Oh, yeah.
Gotta give you a hard time.
You Army people are all alike. You're
Well,
just jealous.
oh, yeah, dream on.
Yeah, come on. You ready?
Okay.
To all our veterans out there, active military and their families, we salute you.
Oh.
All you do. Till next time.